Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the NoDQ.com live recap of AEW Dynamite for November the 17th, 2021. Shout out to everybody watching this live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership and support. As always, if you enjoy this video, please give it a like on YouTube and spread the word. This was the post Full Gear 2021 edition of Dynamite. We kicked off in a big way. A rare talking segment to start off Dynamite. Usually they do a match, but this time they did a promo segment. We had the celebration for the new AEW World Champion, Hangman Adam Page. Tom McCarthy with a $2 super chat to go off topic here. He said, hashtag stick to the topic. So yes, please stick to the topic. To everybody in the chat room, thank you, Tom. This was National Cowboy Shit Day. We had the Dark Order in the ring. Now, before Page came to the ring, we had a clip backstage of the Super Click and the former champion, Kenny Omega. Omega said that people were already asking him, when is the rematch? He talked about how the Elite lost the night at Full Gear. He's disgusted, but things will be fixed. There will be changes. He asked the guys to hold the fort while he's gone. Adam Cole responded by saying that he will take care of it, and Omega said he was actually referring to the Young Bucks, not Cole. I like this little tease here, maybe for an eventual Kenny Omega versus Adam Cole match. Seeds planted here for that. And for those of you that have been following up on the news, Kenny Omega is dealing with a bad shoulder. He's been working with a bad shoulder for a while. He could be out of action for a while, which I think the guy is very deserving of a rest. World champion for almost a year. He's been going hard. I mean, the entire time that AEW has been in existence and going back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, he has been going hard. Dude deserves a break. And this will be an opportunity for some of the other guys in AEW to step up to the plate. Joey Perez says Kenny needs to rest and then come back at Double or Nothing 22. Well, that is certainly a possibility. He might not be gone that long, but I could see him taking a little bit of time off. And Fluffy PR, I think he'll leave just to take some time off and heal his body up, and then he'll be back. And it's good for guys to take a little bit of a break, you know, not just physically, but mentally as well. Jon Moxley taking care of himself, and he gets a break from TV for a while. When he comes back, he'll be fresh, and people will be ready to see him in action. Same thing with Kenny Omega. He takes a break to take care of himself, comes back, and he'll be a fresh face again. So anyways, the new champ, Adam Page, came to the ring, and he got "You Deserve It" chants, and he said that he actually had to earn it. So the crowd busted out a "You Earned It" chant. I like it. I think that should be the norm now. They should chant "You earned it" rather than "You deserved it." I was never a big fan, really, of the "You deserved it" chants. Page said he answers to his boss, which is the people, and then he started to talk about Daniel Bryan, but just as he started to say Bryan's name, the man himself, Bryan Danielson, arrived. And Kyle, who says, what do you think about happened at Survivor Series, or what do you think will happen at Survivor Series this Sunday? We got a predictions video, which is up on the channel, so make sure you guys check that out if you want to know about Survivor Series. But this is AEW talk here. Bryan came into the ring. He said congratulations. He offered a handshake to Adam Page, and then things got interesting. Bryan said he's excited about their upcoming match. Bryan, of course, won the Eliminator Tournament. He's the new #1 contender. He said he's excited, but a little surprised and a little disappointed that it was not Kenny Omega coming out on top at the pay-per-view. Paige responded by saying that he beat Omega, something Bryan could not do, and he did it in less than 30 minutes. Bryan started to really show a different side that we haven't seen in a while. He said that Paige is not going to be wrestling against somebody that dresses like a Ghostbuster on Halloween. He wrestles every week while Paige just flaps his gums. And then Bryan, he really made it clear that he's kind of going in a heelish direction now, because he said when he won the title at WrestleMania, yes, Bryan said WrestleMania on Dynamite, which you guys know, if you mention WWE, that's going to get boos from the crowd. And it worked to perfection here. He said WrestleMania, the crowd booed, and he said he wrestled the very next day after WrestleMania. Paige was like, you know what, let's do it. Let's have a match. Right there, Virginia, do the world title match. Bryan asked the fans if they wanted it. They did the yes chant. And then Bryan said normally he would be up for it. He's ready to wrestle, but Paige is not dressed to compete. And Bryan said he doesn't want any excuses. So therefore, he is going to wait to do the match so Paige will be ready for it. Again, when the challenge is made and the guy says not tonight, you know, that's heel 101. And then things started getting heated. You needed the Dark Order there to keep these guys separate. And Bryan said that they're holding him back. He would kick Paige's ass. And Paige charged at Bryan, took him down. And then we had our commercial break. When we came back, it was Bryan Danielson versus Evil Uno of the Dark Order. And we'll get to that here in just a second. Marcus the Entertainer sent in a $2 super chat. He says, Bryan is great at whatever you need him to be. Absolutely 100%. You know, I thought when Bryan came back in 2018, I was like, there's no way this guy can be a heel again. There's just no way. But Bryan, he went out there. He did the Planet's Champion. And as we saw tonight and during that run as the Planet's Champion, Bryan is so good at being a heel. He can make it work. You feel so sympathetic. You love the guy, but then he can just pull every string. He can hit every right note as a heel. He knows what to do. Total pro. Bryan was just fantastic on this show. Dylan sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Dylan. He says, I laughed when the crowd immediately turned on Bryan when he mentioned WrestleMania. WWE sucks, all elite, baby. I thought it was great. I mean, it was such a great way to get the crowd hating on Bryan to mention WrestleMania. That's all it took. Just one mention of WrestleMania and the crowd's pissed off. Walter Cruz with a $5 super chat. Walter was part of our Survivor Series panel. Shout out to Walter. He says, is Bryanson? Yeah, that's my name for him. Changed heels so Paige can stay face. Well, I think, you know, heel versus face dynamic works better. And yeah, you could do face Bryan versus face Paige, but I like this better. I like Bryan going heel here, and I'm fully confident that Bryan is going to make this work. He was fantastic on this show. Steve-O says he's a great heel. And that eco-friendly world title was so epic. Yeah, they could have done more with that. That, to me, went too short of a period of time. Bryan was just killing it as that character. And we'll see what he does here now going up against Paige. Obviously, the match is not going to happen immediately. I wonder if they're going to do it, if they're going to do another Winter is Coming in December, or maybe they even hold off until the first TBS show in Newark. That'll be in January. They could postpone it until then. But I would say wait a little bit. They might not do it for Revolution. That might be too far out. But I could see them doing it relatively soon. So we had Bryan up against Evil Uno of the Dark Order. And Bryan was doing his old his old heel routine. You know, I have till 5, waiting till the very last second to break the hold. And Uno eventually made a comeback, and Bryan would hit his moves. The crowd would be chanting no. Uno went for a senton, but Bryan got his knees up. Bryan hit the running knee, and then he did what he says he's going to do. He kicks people's head in, and that's what he did here to Uno. Kicked his head in, put on the triangle sleeper, and got the instant submission. Evil Uno immediately out, and Bryan was victorious. And Bryan did not let go right away after the match. You know, the sportsmanship, the fair thing to do is to let go of the hold when you win. To keep it on, kind of a dick move. So Bryan moving in that heel direction. And then afterwards, Tony Schiavone interviewed him in the ring, and Bryan said he's going to kick in the heads of all the Dark Order members. And he said since Dynamite is in Chicago next week, and Colt Cabana, a member of the Dark Order, is from Chicago, Colt Cabana will be next on the list. By the way, there was a funny sign in the crowd. Somebody had a book more than one women's match on TV sign. There were a few interesting signs on this show. There was a "This is awesome sucks" sign in the crowd. I was digging the signs on this week's show. Although I still say the person that brought in the Mr. Tito no DQ sign on Rampage last week, that was the best Dynamite or Rampage sign I've ever seen up to this point. Just saying. Maybe there's a little bias, but gotta say that was my favorite sign. We had MJF footage from him after his win on Saturday at Full Gear, and he said that everybody has been made to look like idiots because everyone thought he was just a promo guy, but he went out there and had this great match with Darby Allin. He said he's got an issue with his knee, but he's feeling nothing but great success. And he teased that he would be a future champion at some point. I'm sure he will be. I still say he should be the next world champion after Page. Maybe All Out next year, build up to that, but I think MJF should be the next champ. Backstage, we had 2.0 and Daniel Garcia confronting Eddie Kingston. Looks like that's going to be Eddie's next program. And Eddie was pissed off about being interrupted, and he decided to go to catering. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. And I have no idea if, to answer Steve-O, I'm not sure if Punk and Cabana are necessarily on speaking terms. I mean, they're definitely cordial. They're working for the same company. But I don't know what their personal relationship is like these days. We had Butcher and Blade against Orange Cassidy, and I'm going to try to pronounce his name, Tomohiro Ishii, something like that. Not familiar with him at all, but he's apparently a pretty big deal in Japan. And he was, doing the tough guy routine where, you chop him and he just gets angrier, and, he exchanges blows with you, and that sort of style that a lot of these Japanese wrestlers do. Apparently it was the correct pronunciation, so I guess I'm impressed with myself that I got it on the first try. Nick Lavin says he's a badass in New Japan. Well, he definitely looked that way now. He looks like a guy that you would not want to run into in a dark alleyway, I'll just say that. But Butcher went at it with him, and Orange Cassidy came in, did his stuff, did the kicks, and he went for the orange punch, but Butcher and Blade took him down, and Tomohiro came in, made the save, and he dragged Orange Cassidy into the corner so he could tag back in, and you had an attempted interference from Matt Hardy and the Bunny, but that backfired. Rocky Romero was out there to even the odds, and Tomohiro hit his lariat and then a brain buster to pin Blade. Pretty solid match here. Dylan says he was at the G1 special in San Francisco, so I guess I have seen him before. I just did not recall. I mean, I honestly, Dylan, I don't remember any matches on that show other than Cody Rhodes versus Kenny Omega. I think the Young Bucks, the Young Bucks did wrestle on that show, but I really don't remember too much from that. Granted, 3 years ago feels like a decade ago with the pandemic and everything. Dylan says he was in a tag match. I'll take your word for it, Dylan. We had Tony Schiavone backstage speaking with Andrade and FTR about their losses at Full Gear. And basically, a challenge was issued and it was set up for next week's show. There will be an 8-man tag team match. And you're going to have Malachi Black joining FTR and Andrade against Cody Rhodes, Pac, and the Lucha Brothers. That's going to be an awesome match. That'll be next week. Would not shock me if that's the main event for next week. That's going to be a pretty big deal. Either that or it'll be the opener, but to me, that should be the main event of the show. We had Britt Baker backstage, and she was interviewed, and she said she's getting tired of the spotlight. So they're going to focus on Jamie Hayter, who's in the TBS title tournament. And Britt said that Jamie's opponent, Thunder Rosa, will become irrelevant. Well, we'll see what happens with that. I could still see Thunder Rosa becoming the first champion, or maybe she gets screwed and she goes after Britt Baker and we get that match at Revolution. I really want to see Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa and see Thunder Rosa become the next champion, but we'll see. Next up, we had Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida. And they've fought a couple of times. They've had some back and forths over the past couple of years. And Rose was working over Shida's leg. Vicky Guerrero was interfering. She used a kendo stick when the referee wasn't looking. And later on, Shida got the kendo stick from Vicky and used it on her. Crowd loved that, of course. But then Serena Deeb interfered. She clipped the knee of Shida, and Shida stayed in it for a little bit, but Nyla capitalized on the bad knee, and she put on her standing submission, the stretch muffler, and that was all she wrote for Shida. Nyla Rose picks up the victory. And they said that Nyla Rose has 50-plus wins, which I guess you wrestle on Dark and Elevation enough, you're gonna rack up that win record. And this was a pretty good match. I enjoyed it. I did like this match. We had a promo from Malachi Black talking about Cody Rhodes, something about the air Cody breathes is going to turn toxic, whatever. And then we had MJF come to the ring with his Pinnacle buddies, Wardlow and Shawn Spears. Crowd was chanting, "You suck." And MJF talked about how he checks all the boxes to be a top star. He's the most complete wrestler on the planet. And he said that in 2024, there's going to be a bidding war. And of course, that's a reference to his contract expiring and maybe WWE signing him. I guess we'll see what happens with that. And he said that if he wants to, he could take a big cowboy shit on Paige's title reign. He said he deserves to be the next world champion, which I like because earlier Paige said he earned it and he didn't want people chanting, "You deserve it." So I like that MJF said he deserves to be the champion. Good stuff there. And he said nobody is on his level. And that's when CM Punk arrived. Yes. I have been waiting for this for a while. This is something I've been talking about. This is one of the programs I want to see out of CM Punk and AEW. CM Punk came to the ring and crowd was chanting, "Holy shit." And MJF offered a handshake to CM Punk. CM Punk just laughed at him and walked off. This was great. Like, just make people wait for this. And, next week is Chicago. I'm really looking forward to Chicago. I wonder if they'll finally do the CM Punk entrance, but it's actually MJF coming out instead. Like, we've been talking about that for a while now. When CM Punk was rumored to debut, like, have MJF come out instead to his music. Maybe they do that next week in Chicago. And that's MJF's way of getting back at CM Punk. I hope they do it. Chicago next week would be perfect. And whatever they do next week in Chicago, I think it's going to be really fun. Walter Cruz with a $2 super chat says the upcoming promos will be epic. I agree 100%. I'm really looking forward to this program. This one's going to be really good. We had Darby Allin interviewed backstage, and he said that there will be a rematch with MJF at some point. He's not going to take any time off, though. He wants to face the biggest and the baddest. And that's when Billy Gunn and the Gun Club showed up. Well, I guess Darby's got to get his win back against somebody. Why not Billy Gunn? I forgot they're even in AEW still, but I guess they still do the Dark and Elevation appearances. Maybe Billy Gunn has like 30 wins that I'm not aware of. I'll be honest with you guys, I do not pay any attention to the win-loss records. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not about that stuff. But that's how these guys build up their wins. They wrestle, beat a bunch of guys on Dark and Elevation. So yeah, maybe Billy Gunn's like 30-2 for all I know. And maybe the same thing with the Gun Club. They got like 30 wins that I'm not even aware of. Anyways, we had the Super Click backstage. And Adam Cole brought in Bobby Fish, his good buddy. And they're going to face the Jurassic Express on this Friday's Rampage. And Bobby Fish cut a little promo, and he was going to say that is undisputed, but right when he started to say it, the Young Bucks cut him off and said, you can't say that here. Apparently you can say WrestleMania, but you can't say undisputed. Tom McCarthy sent in a $2 super chat, says Kyle O'Reilly? Time will tell. Would not shock me. I mean, I would think that there's a pretty decent chance Kyle O'Reilly goes to AEW if he doesn't sign a new WWE deal. I mean, I think it's pretty much a sure thing if he doesn't stay with WWE. Colin Andrews says, I loved Bobby here. That was great. And that is nope, can't say it here. We had Lio Rush and Dante Martin, and they're forming up a nice tag team here. They were up against the Acclaimed. You had Max Caster saying that Lio Rush is an amateur, better off as a manager. And the Acclaimed got hit with stereo dives right before they could even get into the ring. This was a really good match, really fun match between these guys. I really like this team of Lio Rush and Dante Martin. Good stuff here from these guys. A high-flying match. Crowd was into it, chanting, this is awesome. And Max Caster hit his big elbow drop, but Dante Martin made the save. And then Lio Rush was able to hit the big frog splash. Picked up the win over Anthony Bowens. And then afterwards, Team Taz arrived. Team Taz brought up how they're trying to recruit Dante Martin. Taz said it's just business. It's nothing personal. And he said they will be patient when it comes to Dante making his decision. And Dante was, given that look like he's not really sure what to do. And as far as Dante's brother, apparently there's no timetable on when he's going to come back. He's been out of action for a while. He hasn't been forgotten about. He's just injured. But it's not looking great. The fact that Leo and Dante are now doing this team, looks like they're moving forward as a tag team for now. So yeah, he might be back 2022, but looks like it's a pretty serious injury that's keeping him out of action. We had our main event of the evening. Sammy Guevara defending the TNT title against Jay Lethal, formerly Black Machismo. I haven't really seen much of his Ring of Honor stuff, so I don't know what he's been doing much as of late. I know he's pretty much been one of the top guys in Ring of Honor. And, of course, I do remember a lot of his TNA stuff. He was great in TNA, doing the Macho Man stuff and that woo-off with Ric Flair. Just a lot of great stuff in the X Division. And he was fantastic in this match. Like, he was top tier. Him and Sammy had a great main event here. Lots of back and forth action. Very fast-paced match. Crowd was chanting, "This is wrestling." Sammy's ribs were hurt. Excuse me. Let me get a sip of water. Sammy's ribs were hurting. At one point, the trainer was checking on him, and Sammy refused to have the match stopped. And Sammy got back in the ring, kept fighting, and they were on the outside of the ring. Jay was laid out on the table, the timekeeper's table. Sammy went up to the top, went for a swanton, but Jay got out of the way. Sammy crashed and burned through the table. And back in the ring, Jay put on the figure 4. Sammy was able to get out of that. Jay hit the big Macho Man elbow, but Sammy kicked out of that. I like how Jay does the elbow and the figure 4, paying tribute to Randy Savage and Ric Flair, as I mentioned. And the crowd was chanting, "Fight forever." Sammy kept trying to get Lethal up for the go to hell. He hit 2 knee strikes and then was finally able to get the strength to hit the move. Picture perfect go to hell. Retain the championship. Tony Nese, by the way, was watching at ringside. Maybe he'll be the next TNT challenger. And then after the match was over, Inner Circle came down to the ring to celebrate, and Jay Lethal got to his feet. Sammy Guevara offered a handshake. They shook hands. Really fun main event here to end the show. Jay Lethal looked great. Definitely a nice fit. Nick Lavin says, "Guy is smooth in the ring. One of my favorite Ring of Honor talents." And Colin Andrews says, "I'm happy Jay is there after the ROH deal. I really thought he was going to pull it off. He's a wonderful performer." Absolutely. Excellent showing by Jay Lethal here. Fits right in with the AEW crew. And this was an awesome show. I mean, this was one of the best Dynamites of the year, in my opinion. I'm giving it a solid A. Excellent show. Definitely worth your time to check out. This was a really strong show from start to finish. Definitely check out all the Bryan stuff. Main event was awesome. The tag match, Lio Rush and Dante Martin against the Acclaim, was great. Just a really, really strong follow-up to the Full Gear pay-per-view. Lots to look forward to coming up. Caleb Jacobs, Nick Lavin give it an A+. Israel Diaz, Walter Cruz with an A. Joey Perez with an A-. Let's see what you guys gave the show in the poll. 65% A, 26% B, 7% D, and only 1% D. Fantastic show. Really, really strong stuff from AEW. And that's all I got for this recap. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate your viewership and support. If you liked the video, again, please give it a like and tell a friend. Spread the word. Coming up next, we got the No DQ review. We'll be talking about a lot of different topics. And enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. I will see you all